Mayor Tiffany Henyard's once promising political career took a sharp and disastrous turn when her tenure as the first black female mayor Dalton, Illinois was overshadowed by accusations of financial mismanagement and corruption. Initially hailed as a symbol of progress and hope, Henyard's election was seen as a historic moment for a town long plagued by economic struggles and political underrepresentation. For many, she represented the potential for change, a beacon of hope in a town yearning for revitalization and a new direction. However, this promising new chapter quickly unraveled as Henyard became embroiled in a scandal involving the embezzlement of taxpayer funds and a lavish misuse of public resources for personal indulgences. What should have been a beacon of progress instead became a cautionary tale. Henyard's extravagant spending, including first-class flights, five-star hotel stays, and luxury purchases, soon sparked public outrage. Particularly shocking was the revelation that she had spent a staggering $110,000 on a stay at the Four Seasons Hotel in Atlanta. This was especially difficult for the community to swallow, as residents of Dalton were struggling with financial hardships while their mayor lived a life of excess under Henyard leadership. The town's financial stability deteriorated. Projects meant to address the town's economic decline either stalled or failed to materialize. Despite her promises of revitalization, Henyard's actions led to mounting debt, insufficient resources, and an inability to address Dalton's most pressing needs. The once hopeful future for Dalton seemed to crumble as residents watched their elected leaders' misuse of public funds and unchecked indulgence become public knowledge. Dalton's infrastructure was left in disrepair, essential services were underfunded, and key projects were indefinitely postponed, creating a stark contrast between the mayor's lavish lifestyle and the struggles of the people she was elected to serve. This betrayal of public trust caused a deep rift between Henyard and the community. Her extravagant personal expenditures became a symbol of the growing disparity between the political elite and the average citizen. Local government officials who had initially supported her vision for the town were forced to distance themselves from her, as the severity of her actions became impossible to ignore. The community, once hopeful for change, was now left disillusioned and uncertain about its future. Investigations into Henyard financial activities only intensified as the public demanded answers about how taxpayer dollars had been diverted for her personal benefit rather than being used to address Dalton's many challenges. Henyard's political career, once full of promise, now hung in the balance as legal repercussions loomed large. Her fall from grace was both swift and dramatic. The reputation she had once built as a trailblazer and symbol of hope lay and ruined. Her actions not only damaged the office of mayor but also left a scar on the town of Dalton. As the first black female mayor, Henyard's rise had been a historic moment, a beacon for marginalized communities, but her downfall stood as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of accountability in leadership. What was meant to be a new era for Dalton had left the town with an uncertain future. The public's trust had been shattered and its hopes for revitalization dashed. Henyard's legacy would not be one of progress but of broken promises and a cautionary tale about the perils of corruption and the need for transparency in public office. As legal battles intensified and the town of Dalton struggled to recover from the financial devastation caused by Henyard's actions, her fall from grace became a reminder of the destructive power of corruption and the consequences of inadequate oversight in public office. Once hailed as a beacon of hope and progress, Henyard's leadership quickly descended into scandal. Her refusal to cooperate with efforts to resolve the town's growing financial crisis only deepened the turmoil. Henyard vetoed measures to impose stricter financial controls and block the appointment of an independent auditor, creating a gridlock within the town's administration and leaving Dalton in a state of financial and political chaos. The residents, already reeling from revelations about her lavish spending, such as a $43,000 Amazon shopping spree and the aforementioned $110,000 stay at the Four Seasons, grew increasingly frustrated with her refusal to take responsibility for her role in Dalton's collapse. Public outrage reached a fever pitch, and town hall meetings quickly turned into heated protests, with social media campaigns demanding her resignation. Instead of acknowledging her misconduct, Henyard portrayed herself as a misunderstood leader, deflecting blame despite overwhelming evidence of her financial mismanagement. At one time meeting, Heng's bizarre behavior only deepened the divide between her and the community. She showed up with a golden microphone, an ostentatious gesture that stunned the audience and highlighted her apparent disconnect from the gravity of the situation. In another incident, a DJ allegedly played Rihanna's "Better Have My Money" during a public meeting, seemingly in an attempt to diffuse tension in a way many saw as tone-deaf and disrespectful. These actions, combined with her ongoing refusal to take accountability, further alienated the people she had been elected to serve as Dalton grappled With the financial wreckage left in Henyard's wake, the town became bitterly divided. Her supporters from the early days now publicly express regret for their misguided endorsement. The trust they had placed in her was shattered, leaving Dalton at a political and financial crossroads. Henyard's power weakened under the weight of mounting legal investigations and widespread calls for reform. The town teetered on the edge of a crucial turning point. Her once promising leadership had now left Dalton with a fractured community and a bleak outlook for the future. The damage caused by her actions was undeniable, but it also presented Dalton with an opportunity for renewal. Despite Henyard's continued opposition to efforts to curb the town's excessive spending and her bizarre antics that deepened the sense of alienation, there remained hope that the town could recover. Her fall from grace would ultimately be a moment of reckoning for Dalton, a reminder of the destructive power of corruption, the importance of accountability, and a need for new leadership focused on restoring trust, stability, and hope. As a fallout from Tiffany Henyard's scandalous tenure as mayor of Dalton, Illinois continues to unfold, a growing sense of frustration and uncertainty envelopes the community. What had once been a hopeful chapter for the town, marked by Henyard's election as the first black female mayor, has swiftly turned into a tale of financial mismanagement, personal misconduct, and public betrayal. The town's residents, who had once placed their faith in Henyard's promises of revitalization and change, are now grappling with the devastation left in her wake. As the crisis deepens, it is clear that the road to recovery will be long, difficult, and uncertain. In the early days of her administration, Henyard represented a symbol of progress. Her election was celebrated as a historic milestone for Dalton, a town plagued by economic hardship and political underrepresentation. For many, she embodied the hope of a new era, one where effective leadership would address the town's challenges and guide it toward a brighter future. However, as time went on, Henyard's actions quickly betrayed the very ideal she had promised to uphold. Accusations of financial misconduct began to surface, and by 2022, reports detailing Henyard's reckless spending habits began to emerge. Among the most shocking revelations was a $443,000 one-day Amazon shopping spree, which caused outrage among residents already struggling with Dalton's financial instability. Additionally, her use of first-class flights and stays at upscale hotels further fueled public suspicion that she had misused taxpayer dollars for her own personal indulgences. The public's trust, which had been built on the hope of a revitalized community, was shattered as Henyard's lavish lifestyle contrasted sharply with the town's financial hardships. This betrayal of public trust only deepened as Henyard continued to deflect responsibility and refuse to acknowledge the gravity of a situation. Her tenure, once seen as a beacon of change, had quickly devolved into a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the consequences of financial mismanagement in public office. The growing frustration among residents was palpable, and the town's once hopeful future seemed to crumble as Henyard's refusal to cooperate with efforts to rebuild the town only added to the sense of dysfunction and despair. Despite the damage, there remained a glimmer of hope among Dalton's residents. They began to rally behind the idea that the lessons learned from Henyard's scandal could inspire much-needed reforms and restore public trust. Many saw the possibility of a renewed future for Dalton, one where leadership was defined by integrity, transparency, and accountability. However, Henyard's erratic behavior and her refusal to cooperate with reform efforts left the town in limbo, uncertain of its future. The town's frustration with Henyard reached a boiling point as residents longed for a return to leadership rooted in responsible governance. Henyard's refusal to address the growing accusations against her only intensified the crisis, and her increasingly bizarre behavior at public meetings further alienated the community. At one point, she arrived at a town hall meeting with a golden microphone, a gesture that stunned the audience and highlighted her apparent disconnect from the gravity of the situation. This was followed by an incident where a DJ played Rihanna's Better Have My Money at a public meeting, in action that many